Welcome back to Post Media's Ottawa-Senators panel. I'm Bruce Garriock with special guest Nick St. Pierre of Unique 94.5 FM and Wayne Scanlon, former columnist here at the Ottawa Citizen and a writer for Sportsnet.ca now. Guys, we're heading into the trade deadline 2 weeks away now, actually less than 2 weeks away, and my anticipation is we're not going to see much action here in Ottawa. They've got some decisions to make on 10 unrestricted free agents. I think on a lot of those unrestricted free agents, guys, there's very little interest. But one of the guys who will draw some interest is Jean-Gabriel Pageau. And Jason Zucker was traded to the Pittsburgh Penguins on Monday night. Does that set the tone for the market for Pageau, Nick?
I think it does set the tone. And with all the elements that went back to the Wild, I think we can expect something not similar, but where some people thought it was ludicrous to ask for a first-round pick for Pageau. Well, it's not such a ludicrous idea now, and I think it's going to have a domino effect, and Pageau could bring a little bit more than we expected, and now maybe is the time to trade him.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Pageau doesn't have any term left, pending UFA. So how much are you going to give up for a rental? A lot of people saying, Bruce, that this draft is so good, so strong, and especially the top end, people very reluctant to give up first-round draft picks. So it'll be interesting. I think overall it's going to be what can Dorion get for these players? You can say that he's not going to give up, trade a lot of these guys. It depends what he's offered.
I thought when he did the interview with TSN, is one of his most telling comments was him saying, we got a lot of draft picks and prospects. I'm not sure that we need more draft picks and prospects, Nick. And one of the things I look at in his situation right now is, where is Jean-Gabriel Pageau going to fit on a contender? Well, I can tell you where he's going to fit on a contender. He's going to be a third-line center.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they're going to have a difficult time getting a first-round pick.
Well, you have a good point there, but still, if Jean-Gabriel Pageau can actually bring his hockey higher. Everybody knows Jean-Gabriel Pageau is a warrior. And in a playoff, it's definitely worth gold. So if a team wants to do a push and think that Jean-Gabriel Pageau is the one that's going to make the difference, they're going to give what is expected from Dorion and what's Dorion asking. And you have a good point. A lot of draft picks. I think at the moment we should have some element that can actually be plugged in the lineup right away. So that could be a perspective that expect Dorion.
One of the things I also wonder about is, and I think one of the more marketable commodities is Dylan DeMello. But again, here's a guy who, look, he's at the right price. I think at $900,000 this year, and an unrestricted free agent on July 1. But is he a top four defenseman on a team going for a Stanley Cup?
He's probably not. I would think he's probably an insurance type guy, but everybody needs defensemen, and they're always getting banged up, so you can never seem to have enough. Another player, I could see him both ways. I could see him fitting in nicely with Ottawa with the young defenseman coming up down the road. I could also see him sliding in nicely as an insurance play for a contender.
I also look at guys like Nemesnikov and there's been some talk about Tyler Ennis and Craig Anderson. Look, let's start with Anderson. Anderson is not playing well. He's not a marketable commodity right now, Nick. If there was any chance of him being sent to a contender, I think it slipped away Saturday afternoon in Winnipeg in a 5-2 loss.
Numbers are not there, performance are not there, but I feel bad sometimes when I approach Craig because everybody knows that he's at the crossroad, and unfortunately he's going to leave not on his own term. We all know that's the nature of the beast, where the professional at a moment where you've been number one somewhere, someone's going to take your place. Craig Anderson is not going to be somewhere else after the 24th, but I don't have any problem seeing Craig around that locker room because, honestly, that synergy with Ogberg probably loves to have him around with the experience and all that. And quite honestly, everybody's expecting Nielsen, no problem, next year. But with the concussion that he had, the diagnostic was longer than we expected. So I'm not sure he's going to be at an NHL level right now. So Craig Anderson around, no problem with that.
What do you think they do with Hogberg when Nielsen does come back? My sense is, Wayne, that they send him down to the minors and try and help let him lead that team in Belleville to the playoffs.
Absolutely.
Is that the right play?
Oh, I think so. I think so. And, as Nick says, it may be a while for Nilsson. He's back skating. It sounds like he's close, but you know how these things go. They probably want him practicing with the team for a couple of weeks before they're going to give him a start. That means if Craig Anderson's
Keep in
still
mind maybe
around,
a setback also.
Absolutely. I mean, that's always a possibility. But I agree with you, Bruce. I think Hogberg down on a Belleville team that's the hottest team in the American Hockey League right now. Now they're a youngish team. I think they might be the youngest team in the league. So at playoff time, we'll see if that they can overcome that possibly disability. But they've got so much talent. They score a ton, and Hogberg I think would really settle things down and could be a great experience for him.
One of the things I wonder about Hogberg, though, Nick, is can he challenge for? Look, I think he's shown he can play in the league, but can he
challenge for number one?
Yeah, can he challenge for number one? And I'm not talking this year. I mean next year.
Right now, I think he's the one that's going to be number one. Like he's giving us like performance, like he's poised. Of course, there's some stuff that needs to be worked on. But between Nilsson and Hogberg, I love Nilsson, but it's a matter of consistency. Hogberg gave us that consistency right now. For me, next year, at the moment we're talking, Hogberg is the number one goalie.
One of the things that's going to happen here is the Senators will open a 5-game homestand starting with the Arizona Coyotes Thursday night. And during that homestand, we're going to witness the retirement of Chris Phillips' jersey, number 4, being pulled up to the rafters next Tuesday night against the Buffalo Sabres. You kind of start looking back at career moments when players go through this situation. When you think of Chris Phillips, what do you think of?
The overtime goal against New Jersey Devils to force a Game 7 back here in Ottawa, perhaps. I mean, there's been some great ones, surpassing Daniel Alfredsson as playing more games in a Senators uniform than anybody else in the modern franchise history. Just a stalwart, steady guy and a massive presence in the community. So this is going to be a great moment.
Look, I never debate whether players should have their number retired or not, but you feel like this is a very worthy candidate, right? For not only for what Chris Phillips did on the ice, but for what he did in the community as well.
Yeah, his sprint in the community, a gentle giant, a great presence in the locker room, a great leader. That's the kind of guy you want to have as an ambassador. He represents greatly the Senators, and it's an honor that is due for him, and we'll be there for cheering for him.
You look at Chris Phillips and what he attained in his career. He had opportunities to go elsewhere. There were times where he could have gone to a contender. I think in 2011 he had the option to go to the Boston Bruins, and I think maybe I think if they were in the playoffs at that time, there may have been the Montreal Canadiens. He spoke about 2014 when he signed a 2-year extension, what turned out to be his last contract. Just a good soldier for this organization, right?
Yeah, and he has said himself recently that he probably wouldn't be getting his jersey retired if he hadn't stayed with the Senators throughout and passed Daniel Alfredsson for that record, for the game's record. It was meant to be. I mean, some guys with Alfredsson, he was meant to go and finish his career in Detroit and then come back and officially retire as an Ottawa Senator. For Chris Phillips, this was his fate, and it's a very worthy retirement.
One other guy I want to ask you about before we move on here is do you think, Nick, that we'll see Chris Neal's number retired next? Because if you look at their careers and what they did for this organization, they are fairly comparable.
Yeah, exactly.
Different roles.
I think, yeah, totally, but it's the logical path to take. I think 25 deserves that honor too. Where, when, I don't know. But yeah, as much as Alfredsson, as much as Phillips, Neal, on a certain level, at a lot of level, represented greatly the Senators. He was a warrior on and off the ice. Great print, again, in the community. So, again, I think for what he did for this organization, 25 must be retired.
Before we wrap up here, and I should say I sit on that committee, and I think it would be, you can't retire numbers every year or put people in the Ring of Honor, so I think it would be a couple of years. But before we wrap up here...
the Ring of Honor is taking long, by the way.
Yeah. Bobby Ryan returned to skating with the Senators. He's been in the NHL Players Assistance Program. When do you expect we see him?
Boy, it's really hard to say because we're not really sure what's going on behind the scenes. I think the player has to feel ready. The team has to be ready to accept that he's ready to go again. It was great to see him practicing, but you could tell in his first practices back, he's a little bit rusty and a little bit tentative out there. So I think they want it to be a perfect situation for him. He has to be more than ready to resume active play in the NHL again.
Well, and Nick, this isn't about Bobby Run, the hockey player, right now. It's about Bobby Run, the person, isn't it?
Totally. And I don't know where he's at in his state of mind. I think it's great to see him back in the locker room, but let's not expedite his return. We could wait for him next season, but at the meantime, it's good for him to be around the team, and we have to think about the human first, so let's take our time and see what happens.
Well, I appreciate your time today, guys. Thanks for coming in. For Post Media, I'm Bruce Garriock with Nick St. Pierre of Unique 94.5 FM and Wayne Scanlon of Sportsnet.ca. Tune in next week.